Right. Good evening, good people. How's everybody doing?
My brothers, what's happening? What's happening?
What's happening? I want to
What up?
welcome everyone back to another episode of Soul Brothers on Godly View. My name is AB Bracewell, and I'm sharing the stage with some very esteemed, wise, intelligent brothers. Please introduce yourself.
I am Pastor Gregory Devon out of Durham, North Carolina. I do bring you greetings on today. Look forward to hopping in our hot topics and our subject for today.
What up, y'all? This is Reverend James J. Scaletta III. I'm excited to be back here with my brothers again and bringing you greetings from the little town of Glasgow, Kentucky. And I'm excited. I'm excited.
Okay. As I said, welcome to another episode. This is our third episode, correct, brothers? Our
Mhm.
third
Yes,
episode
sir.
of
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Soul Brothers. The Soul Brothers. So it's been a pleasure just sharing the stage with you guys in these conversations. We've been having some very deep, intimate, transparent, and impactful conversations so far.
Mm-hmm.
I know today's not going to be any different. Today
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about he emotions. He emotions. I know you've probably heard that term before. Basically referring to men and how we process, express, communicate, display our emotions. But
Mm-hmm.
before we get into the conversation, we have a couple of hot topics. We got a couple of hot topics, and well, if one of you brothers don't mind grabbing what the hot topics are, or which one of the hot topics were today, as I fiddle with my screen. But if one of you brothers have it up already, can what's the hot topic for this week?
Well, one of them was definitely dealing with the situation where the police officer, for whatever reason, struck the guy who was in the police station, and then it seemed like the other officers pinned the man down. My thing was the man didn't appear to be in handcuffs, but the man also didn't appear to be a threat, and but here it is again. We have this situation happening again. And my question, continually is why? And this was a man of color striking another man of color, and it may have appeared as though the gentleman may have said something, but at the end of the day, I'm just sorry. Words don't validate, you striking somebody, especially when you are somebody that we expect to uphold the law and to uh, be one who sets the example, one who is to protect and to serve. I think that we've got to figure out like what is going on in the mind of some of these officers to make them continually cross this line, but then have no fear of crossing this line. And it's just sad this time that it is not an issue of race, it's an issue of integrity.
Yeah, I
I
saw the
agree.
video, and I agree. I saw the video, and the sad thing is that when I first saw the video, the first thing
Mhm.
that came to my mind was, "Here we go again."
Right.
It was here we go again. I
Right.
wasn't even as shocked as I probably should have been,
Right.
because this is just so repeated that we almost become numb to this.
Right.
And what's even sadder than that is that on this video we can look at that brutality and say that it was light compared to some of the things we have seen between in the black community and police. He got punched and he got his head slammed into the ground, but we have some brothers that actually lost their lives.
That's right.
They actually lost their lives. So it's sad when I looked at it, and I've become so numb to it, and which is not a good thing. Because when we become numb to things, then we tend to start to ignore them. But I've become so numb to it that I just said, here we go again. Here we go again. Like, what type of training, what type of evaluations are they doing on some of these police officers before they join the force? And this should be an ongoing evaluation, because as years goes on, they're people just like us. They see some horrible things just like us, and that can have some trauma on them.
Exactly.
And then they take it out on the guys that they're arresting, the guys that they supposed to, holding the law up to. So, it's just sad, and it always takes me back to what's the mental state of some of these officers out here on the street.
That's an excellent point you make about what is their mental state, AB, because I just wonder sometimes, are officers getting mental evals on a regular basis to see, do you have some PTSD going on, or have you become, so desensitized to being a human being that you see yourself as just an officer and not another human being? Have you lost the even the value of human life? I wonder sometimes, because when you think about the training that officers receive, and it's not that I put everybody in the same category, because that's some wonderful officers out here, but just look at how quick that you can, if you happen to pull that firearm, you're not taught to shoot to stop, you shoot to kill. So when you shoot to kill, you're not you kind of desensitized again to this human experience, because you're automatically pulling to kill, not to stop, but to kill. So it's like, what goes into the decision to pull a gun or to be violent? Like what goes into that? What are you looking at to make that call as to, is it a taser? Is it my firearm? Is it physical force? Like, what's going on up here?
I guess my question would be, where's the morals? I mean, because to be honest, if you really look at it, anybody that does something like that to another human being, I don't care if you're black, white, brown, or yellow, it doesn't really matter. They are still a human being.
Right.
Anybody that does that to another human being obviously doesn't have much morals for themselves. And another thing that comes to my mind is abuse of power.
Yeah.
They're doing this because they're looking back at what so many other officers have been able to get away with.
Right.
Yeah, every once in a while, the officer might get arrested. However, when you really look at it, out of all of the times that we have seen black on black on our police brutality crimes, how many times are the officers really arrested?
And I wonder this too. I'm sorry. My fault. Sorry.
No, my fault. But yeah, my last question I would say is, I don't care what that man said.
Yeah.
When are we going to stop looking at a reason to blame the victim and start pointing the fingers at who the real problem is? Every time a crime happens, we are quick to point a finger at the victim with with
Yeah.
the one young brother. He was sleeping with the guy's ex-wife. With
Mhm.
another young brother, he was probably robbing a store. With
Mhm.
another young brother, he was doing this or he was doing that. When are we going to stop looking at the victim and try to find fault in the victim and really point our fingers at a corrupt police system?
Yeah. Yeah. When you look across the country, no matter where you live, we can tell that this is not simply a problem in one community. It's a problem across the country. And I think that for whatever reason, us as people of color, when it happens, a black officer and a black person in custody, another question now has to be raised. Like, in our community, have we faced so much hurt that our officers of color, are they having some serious PTSD against the violence that we have faced as black people, that now we are turning on ourselves? You know what I'm saying? Like that. I mean, that is not just an issue in policing. That's an issue in the black community, period. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not one of these who says that, black on black crime is the highest kind of crime, because it's not. At the end of the day, black on black crime is actually about proximity as opposed to race. Because again, blacks tend to live around blacks, whites live around whites. That's just the nature of the beast. So if you actually look at the numbers, black on black crime is no more a problem than white on white crime.
Mm.
But psychologically speaking, my question is, I wonder what is making us come after each other within the law, but also within, even in our own endeavors. Like look at us within business. We carry that aggression and violence even into supporting our own in business. We are so quick to talk about why we will not support each other, why we don't support our own, why we don't support our HBCUs, if you go into a black restaurant, right, and you have a bad experience, we will make that the end all be all and never patronize them ever again, because we become really violent and aggressive and mean about it. But how many times have Ronald McDonald messed up your Big Mac, but you go right back to McDonald's the next week? How many times Burger King did mess up your Whopper, but you go right back the next week and order you another one, and you give them an opportunity to correct that, right? But when it concerns other things in our community, we are very violent towards one another in everything. I don't want to see you succeed because I feel like your success threatens my success. I
Yeah.
feel like you doing well threatens who I am.
Mm.
Like we feel like that there's no room for us to grow as individuals, right? And we even feel as though now that we cannot even support the community that we have come out of and overcome, because we say that, well, I'm not going to give back to my community
Yeah.
because my community won't appreciate it. Like we think about all these negative things
Mm-hmm.
that we put on us as people, and we carry that same attitude in everywhere, and it rears its head in every single place.
Yeah. Let me hop in, because I as you speak, I have a question. A question comes to my mind, and it's about anger. I'm wondering, why are we so angry with all the
Mhm.
things that you're listing, all the things that you brothers are talking about, the
Mhm.
police brutality, the things that's going on in our community, the black on black crime. Why are we so angry, especially as black men? Where's that anger coming from? Like, what type of image are we trying to portray for ourselves with the way
Mhm.
we display our emotions or our anger? Or are we trying to create like a sense of toughness? Is that what we need to survive? Like, where is all the anger coming from? What are we trying to get? What are we trying to prove? What are we trying to accomplish? What do we think we can accomplish with all the force, all the aggression, the violence, that we display so often, that we display as black men. And I know we're gonna get more into it as we talk about the topic of emotions, because to be honest, anger is probably one of the emotions that we have has mastered, I should say. Anger is one of the emotions that we have mastered, but there are so many other emotions that we don't even have a name for. We don't even know how to identify in ourselves. So of course, how would we know how to express it if we can't even put a label to it? So I don't know if there was another hot topic or not. If it is, please let me know. If not, we could jump into this whole conversation on emotions.
I mean, that will, we can always skip it and jump into the combo.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
definitely.
Okay,
So you asked a great question just now.
Okay.
I mean, you know, and it was, you know, you asked a loaded question, but it's still a great question that's like full of different answers that you can go like to address it directly about the anger piece. I think that sometimes as black men, if we're not careful, we will allow the hate that we have received to consume us, and then we become that hate, we become that aggression, we become that anger because we don't know what else to do with it. Like when you think ever since 1619 we have been here, right? Yeah, we've been through the civil rights, we've been through Jim Crow, and we think that now, you know, we've had, you know, President Barack Obama did a wonderful job. Shout out to B-Rock. but we think that we have overcome, right? When we're still in the process of becoming, because at the end of the day, even though we've had all these successes, this generation is so far removed from that in their brains because we had no dog in that fight in terms of having to put the blood, sweat, and tears in that, right? Generations behind us did that. So you got to think. So now a more comfortable time breeds a softer individual, right? But if we're not careful in the process, so when we see injustice, either we're going to be desensitized to it, or we're going to be overly angry about it to the point where we don't think rationally. And now we begin to fight whomever. If I think anything or anyone is opposing my success, whether you black, white, whomever, man, woman, boy, girl, we begin to lash out. Look at the places where a lot of black men are angry. It's everywhere. Angry on the job, angry in the church, angry with your baby's mother, angry with your children, angry with your wife. Why? Because anger and aggression have been the only really two emotions that we have been made to feel like, well, it's okay, right? Not that people are saying it's okay if you're angry. No, the expectation is for you to be angry. So if that's what we expect, then when you do it, then that's characterized as normal. So it's like that's what we're doing, is that we're operating in this, and then when we need to be vulnerable, or to say we're hurting, or to get to a point to say this is why I'm angry, I don't know how to express that because I have no experience in being vulnerable, because life has not afforded me the opportunity to talk in that manner, to exist in that vein, and to say I'm angry because of X, Y, and Z. I'm angry because I'm tired of seeing my brothers killed, oppressed. I'm angry because I don't see a way out of this. We don't know how to have that conversation. And I'm gonna land the play here and say this last thing. That becomes the place of our brokenness, is our inability to be vulnerable and our inability to admit that I'm not okay.
Right. Jay, you wanted to jump in?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Basically, I kind of agree with Pastor Gregory. A lot of times what we are going through is a fact of it goes back to slavery days. We've dealt with so much, even coming here, and still deal with so much. We are still one of the most oppressed people. And then it's like when we deal with that oppression, we try to figure out our best ways of dealing with it, where women can cry, they can show their emotions more. For
Mm-hmm.
men, we are told men don't cry, men don't show their emotions. So it's like, okay, we don't feel safe to show our emotions in that space. So the only emotion that we have to show is anger. And then they wonder why our men are so angry. It's because of the fact of you have created an environment for us to make us feel like that's the only thing that you will accept from us. When I
Mm-hmm.
try to show you my vulnerability of being sad, show
Mm-hmm.
my feelings, you sat there and laughed at me and said, "Men don't cry, men don't show their emotions like this."
Mm-hmm.
So since I dealt with that, I don't want to deal with that anymore. So I'm gonna give you what you expect from me. I'm gonna give you the angry black man. And
Mm-hmm.
then I become the stereotypical angry black man that you try to stereotype every black man as.
Mm-hmm.
But may I raise the question, every black man ain't angry. It's just a fact of you haven't allowed us to show our emotions in the way that we want to show them.
Mm.
And then what we do to the emotionally intelligent black man. Like, I'm sorry, I'm probably finna get some frown faces on this one, AB.
Listen,
All
But
right.
so the emotionally intelligent man that you prayed for, God,
No.
send me the emotionally intelligent man, a man who will listen, a man who will express himself. And here
Come on.
comes that man walking into your life. God says, boom, whoop, there it is. And now you realize, oh, that's what an emotionally intelligent man look like. Oh, emotionally intelligent man not just understands his emotions, he understands yours too. And an
Mm.
emotionally intelligent man is going to give you the truth when that truth stings. So now you've been used to folk pity patting around your feelings. And now this man comes into your life. He is emotionally intelligent and honest. So now you start to ask that man, do I look fat in this dress? Yeah, you really do. You start to ask that man things like, you like my hair? It's not the best
No.
look for you. The emotion intelligent man is going to tell you, I don't really like that girlfriend of yours because she's not the greatest influence on you because of A, B, C, and D. And every time you're around her and you come back, you're different. And you're different like this. And then that poses a problem for me and you because she talks to her man like that. And then you come back here thinking that you can talk to me that way. And it's the problem. Or let's go the other route. You want the emotionally intelligent man. Well, if that man gives you too much of his vulnerability, now you call him weak and you call him soft. You said you
Mm.
wanted a man not to be so hard and not to be afraid to cry. Well, this man cried. Now you said he was weak. Now you said he cried too much. So now you criticized him at the point, but you said that's what you wanted. We want an emotionally intelligent man till that man comes into your life and you realize I've never heard a real man. I've never heard an emotional man, intelligent man speak his truth and to be honest with me. And now I realize, an emotionally intelligent individual, period, is a very secure person. And this person's idiosyncrasies might rub me the wrong way because they're going to speak the truth and I'm used to hearing it like this. They're giving it like this. Now I'm upset. So now it's like some men are faced with the reality that you don't want an emotionally intelligent man, or you don't want a man who will give you his truth, or a man who will talk and express himself. You want a man who will say what you're thinking in a masculine voice. A lot of women want a man that will speak out loud her thoughts in a masculine voice. And that sometimes is what makes women feel how they think they want to feel.
Yeah.
Because you have a lot of women who they'll say, well, yeah, a man is the head, but we the neck. Lies.
Mm-mm.
Lies. Lies. No, because you have this, I call it fake or false sense of thinking that, well, he's the head, but I can still control him because the neck turns the head. When actually it doesn't, because the neck does what the brain tell it to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But that's another story.
Pastor, let me
Yeah,
hop in, because now that you started talking about relationships and our emotions, I'm big on education and educating and helping people understand, especially more about men. So when we start to talk about men and emotions, what I think would be like real helpful for the people that's watching, even for ourselves, can we talk about what and how we express our emotions as men, what it means, you know, how it might impact others, someone that we're in relationships, shape a relationship with, or it could be not only a relationship, it could be our children, it could be anyone. I think we're not fully understood how we express our emotions. The fact that we have to sometimes go into our cave and process emotions and then come back out. Personally, I personally don't have any issue with a man that processes his emotions in that way, as long as when you come back out, you have some results. As long as there's some change, as long as you're able to communicate better at that point, as long as you're able to really process and express your emotions, I have no problem with you going in the cave. What I do think is a big issue in relationships when it comes to men and our emotions is that we don't always communicate to the person that we're in a relationship with when we're going to the cave. We don't communicate how we process our emotions. We don't let them know that, you know, I'm isolating myself, or I'm stepping away just to think these things through, to actually feel it. Because and when we don't communicate that stuff, what usually happens? They usually start to blame themselves, because they want to know why we've pulled away. So they'll either blame themselves, or they'll feel guilty, and then of course they want to push for answers. So they almost will try to force you to talk when we go into our cave. Or if they don't try to force you to talk, and then the result might be they give you their silent treatment.
Right.
And it could have all been solved by us just communicating to our ladies, to the person that we're in a relationship with, is, hey, yes, I'm going away. I'm going into my cave, but it's a two-way ticket. It's not a one-way ticket. I'll be back. And then when I'll be back, we can talk about it. So let's talk about that. So maybe the ladies that's watching can understand, how do men communicate their emotions? How do we express it? How do we let it out? How would they know how we're feeling?
You have to take that man at his word. We say that men don't communicate, but is that always really the truth? It's not.
No.
Sometimes men say more than we give them credit for, but the cave, as you speak, is not always a bad place to be. It's just that we do have to communicate when I'm going in that cave. Like somebody asking the question, well, how is the cave a good place to be? Because let's just go Bible for a minute. Jesus had to go in the cave. It was necessary, right? Not even just Jesus. Lazarus had to go in the cave. It was necessary. Look at Jonah. It wasn't a cave, but it was the belly of the fish, right? It was necessary. Now, all three of those situations, we would think look like demise, right? Because it got two graves, then we got the belly of a fish, right? Those are both dark places, and it's like, well, what's the point in that? The point is not demise, it's for development. Anything that goes into darkness oftentimes has to go in the darkness to come out a better version than when they went in, and the darkness was required. But it's not for anybody else to understand but the person that's going in. Now that's something that, again, back to the communication piece. Yes, as a man, I have to say that and admit that. But sometimes men are. We're admitting that we're saying that, and we're saying, you know what? Let me be, and let me deal with this. Some women can't take that, but you have to realize that there are certain midnights and certain storms that God has designed for a man to have to go through, and you cannot help him with that. Other than, if you're married to him, just support him, pray for him. You know what I'm saying? When he comes out, be there for him. Let him go through his divine destination. He has to go through this because, again, you think about photography, old school photography. You had to take a negative and go into a dark room and develop that negative. And that is what men are doing sometimes, is going into our dark places and developing ourselves. We're developing plans, developing strategies, developing ways that when we come out, okay, baby, so what we're going to do. Like, a man has to get away sometime to go through that. Now, the other side of that is that some men who fall into a dark place, and that's when we're unable to communicate. But it's not always intentional. It's because I fell, I've fallen, and the only thing that I'm aware of is the fact that I have fallen. I don't want to communicate this. Not because I'm mad at you. It's hard for me to talk about this. I lost my job. I made a bad investment. I lost some money. I made a bad decision that's getting ready to impact this family. Now it's hard for me to talk about that because it goes against my champion nature. Now this is the place that men, we don't have a lot of experience talking about this. And that's why it takes men like the three of us are doing to have that conversation that helps not only a man, but it helps a woman who's dealing with that man to know, instead of me becoming angry that this man is not really communicating, or instead of me internalizing it, and then that gives me a reason to be mad at him, let me pause and still pray, like in the other scenario, still pray, God, I don't know what he's dealing with, but I need you to work on not him, us, because we won. That sooner or later, we're going to be drawn back together and we'll be able to have a conversation.
Pastor, you said something a few seconds ago that really it resonated with me. You pointed out the three of us, like there's men like this that you need. And that's something I actually realized today. We always talk about how there's not enough spaces for men to communicate those vulnerable emotions that you was talking about. There's not enough safety. There's not enough security. There's not enough places where a man can go and talk like that. But for the past 2 days, I've been in those spaces. With group of men that really talking about their hurt, their pain, their brokenness, those vulnerable things that that we just don't have the green light to talk about all the time.
Right.
And when it's so important that you find men that are open to that type of conversation, because all of us aren't, to be honest, all of us aren't. You can't start talking about your pain and your sadness around every single one of your friends. Some of your friends just want to talk about whatever, sports, business, women, whatever they want to talk about. But there's a certain tribe that's out there that's open to this conversation and really encouraging other men to talk about something that things that they've been holding in for far too long. We're dealing with so much stress, depression, mental health, medical health, physical health issues, and a lot of that stuff stems from our emotions. It stems from the way we think. So when you said that really resonated with me, and it made me think of the places I've been this weekend and how men has been really open and sharing their emotions and the things that they've been through. So I just wanted to make sure I say that before.
Yeah.
I think for me, what we also got to realize is a lot of times we hear women say that men don't communicate. Yeah, we do. We communicate. We just don't always communicate the way that you want us to communicate.
Mhm.
We have to realize that men are, a lot of men aren't talkers. We are fixers. We're going to do what we have to do to fix the situation. We don't want
Mhm.
to listen to about 20 or 30 minutes of what we did wrong. Okay, cool.
Mhm.
Tell me what we did wrong. Figure out what I have to do to fix this situation so that I know that it doesn't happen again. But sitting here for 30, 35 minutes listening to how you felt like I was wrong in this situation isn't going to do nothing but put me in a more deeper space of where I might, you know what, I don't even want to have this conversation with them at this point because of the fact of, hey, I don't even feel safe in this space because of the simple fact of, hey, all of my faults are being brought up, but you nevertheless, when they mess up, it isn't brought up.
Mhm.
Or B, the things I do right aren't brought up, but
Mhm.
when something negative happens, that is magnified
Mhm.
times 10. So what we have to realize is men do communicate.
Yeah.
However, this may not be in the way that you are used to communication. We just
Mhm.
gotta make sure that we are open to every different aspect of communication that men have
Yeah.
and
I, I,
women have.
yeah, I want to say this real quickly. A quick thought.
Mhm.
What you're saying, Rev, is really making me think of there's something I read one time, and it stated
Mhm.
that you need to love, you need to learn to express your love in your partner's love language.
Mhm.
As you're saying that men don't communicate as much, women
Mhm.
can communicate a whole lot. But the thing about that is that we all show our love in unique ways. We all communicate in different ways, and
Mhm.
it's important that we be observant to our mates, them to us, and we to them of the way they express their love. You
Mhm.
know, some people like giving gifts. Some people like that quality time. Some people like the physical touch. But the
Mhm.
chances are the way they're expressing their love is the way that's their love language, and that's the
Mhm.
way they want love in return. So it's so
Right.
important for us to be observant of the way each other express love, communicate
Mhm.
feelings, process our emotions. So sometimes we have to flip the script, and we have to
Yeah.
express it like they express it, and they have to
Mhm.
express it like we express it, just
Mhm.
Exactly.
so we can be on that same page. And that really stuck. That popped in my head when you said that. That we have to learn to show our love in the language of our partners. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's going to be hard because it's not going to feel natural. It might feel a little mechanical because we're not used to it. You know, that's not our love language. But I think it's worth it if we start to try and make that effort.
Oh, definitely. I had to learn that the hard way. And once I learned it, I was like, okay, bet. Okay, got it. I messed up. Let me fix it and let me learn how to show you the love in the way that you are wanting to receive it. I can't do
Yeah.
it the way that I want to do it. I got to do it the way that you're wanting it at this time.
And you talked about the other part of your question earlier, AB. I failed to address the part where you talked about with the whole helping women understand our emotions, right? When I mentioned the whole thing about when men go into isolation, sometimes that has to be interpreted a certain way so that a woman can understand not to take that personal, right? A man goes into isolation sometimes because he does not know how to be intimate, right? It is in those dark places sometimes. Like when Jesus went into the grave, right? And had to get with God the Father. Lazarus went into a dark place. Jesus ends up meeting him there. Jonah is in the belly of a fish, right? Which looked like detriment, but it's really for his development to have an encounter with God, right? There's sometimes that when a man goes into an isolated place, and he might be going in to escape the world, but all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. That is the place that God will meet us sometime, because at the end of the day, throughout Scripture, God will create places of isolation for men to go into, that you can get rid of every distraction. And when you turn down the volume of life, now you can hear me better. Because sometimes we can't hear God because our life is too loud. So now that we isolated, boom, God can now speak and deal with us as individuals. That's intimacy, right? So now the thing is, to women, understand that when a man starts to isolate, that man needs intimacy. And talking about sex, talking about intimacy. You talk about, you are a woman who has some intuition. Do you really? If your intuition was like that when that man went in that isolated place, then where's your discernment to realize that man needs intimacy? I need to make sure that I allow him to have some intimacy with him and I. And what does that really look like? See, that's sometime when a man becomes sexual, that he's becoming sexual because he really is craving intimacy. But we teach men that the only avenue to intimacy is sex. So sometimes we think that the man just wants sex. That man is actually sometimes craving intimacy. And the only route, the only map, the only direction that he thinks to get there is the route of sex. But that man is really craving intimacy. But we don't give a man the grace to grow and to help that man understand. Well, if it's intimacy you want, you have to say that. Like, let's if men are listening, it is okay to tell your woman, if you're married, still, I don't need sex. I need a hug. I don't need to be naked physically. I need to be emotionally naked. I need for you to help me to strip this thing down. And I need for you not to do as some of our feminine counterparts do. And when a man speaks, you're so busy trying to find a rebuttal that you're not listening to what I'm saying. You want me to use my words, but then you criticize the words that I used in the moment. So now I'm stuck not knowing what to say. Is it safe to talk to you? And that's where a lot of men are, because even on spaces like this, all of us, we speak on different platforms often, our personal ones, in church, all these things. And when men begin to speak, the reason that it's easier for men to talk to other men is because men listen to each other. They can relate and they understand, man, if I don't let this brother, if I don't let James talk, I don't know who else gonna listen to him. If I don't let AB get it out to me, who else gonna listen to him? That's why we going to the barbershop, had that conversation. That's why we going to the bar and having that conversation. Because that bartender, not only is he listening to me, but then he's pouring my cup and filling me back up with something. Not advocating anybody getting drunk. I'm just keeping it 100. It's an exchange, right? And it's like, with you and your man, does he feel like it's a healthy exchange? If he does come to a place to where he starts to talk, Have you provided a safe space for him to speak? But see, when we say that, AB, now the question is, well, why I gotta provide a safe space? Just
Yeah.
talk. The same way you wanted a safe space. The same, I'll flip it. When a woman talks to a man, she wants him to be able to decipher if you should fix my problem or if you should understand my experience.
Mhm.
We're gonna try to fix it, right? But we have to understand that there's some time when a woman don't want you to fix it. She wants you to listen and give her intimacy.
Yeah.
Because intimacy is truth, and intimacy is giving you something that I don't get nobody else.
Let me
Likewise, we are the same.
I wanted to hop in with another question.
Sure.
I had another thought. Like I said, this weekend, I've been surrounding myself with a lot of solid brothers. And today I went to this event called Letters to My Father. It's a group of men that wrote letters to their father. Some fathers are still living, some has passed away. But the whole idea of the program was to have men communicate their feelings, their thoughts, their experiences to their dad. And it was one that really resonated with me, because this one brother was talking about how he felt abandoned by his father, and how that abandonment, of him waiting for his dad to come pick him up, wouldn't show up, promised to pick him up, never come, week after week, and this feeling of abandonment and rejection set inside of him. And as a result, he took that feeling of abandonment into his relationships, where he could never truly trust a woman.
Yeah.
He could never really let down his guard, because he always felt that this person is not going to be here for me, or the next day this person is not going to show up. Yeah. Or they're telling me they're coming and they won't come. So that's how that trauma and those emotions got passed down in him. But there's so many other brothers that's dealing with other emotions, I should say, that sometimes passed down from our father, could be passed down from our mother, or passed down from some traumatic history. Being that we're going towards the end, I wanted to leave the brothers that's watching and the sisters that's watching, because I know they have men in their lives as well. I want to leave them with ways that we as men, especially we as Black men, can better cope, can better communicate, can better process, can better express some of those traumas, some of those emotions, some of those memories that keep us stuck in our childhood. What are some ways do y'all help brothers? What are some ways we help brothers? What some ways are just helpful with dealing with that type of stuff?
Learning that your future is not your past. You have to get to that point to where you're realizing, okay, this happened to me, but I am not what my situation says that I am. Yes, I may have been, that situation may have made me feel down at that moment. However, I have to look at what happened and how I've grown from that situation. Yeah, granted, it didn't feel good at that moment, but as the word says, everything that happens to you isn't for your good sometimes, but it's always, everything doesn't feel good all the time, but it's always going to be for your good in the end.
Right.
The the pit that Daniel was in didn't feel good to him. The jail that Joseph was in didn't feel good to him. The fire that the three Hebrew boys was in did not feel good to them. However, all three of those things ended up being for their good in the end. Yeah, the abuse that I suffered through your childhood, it wasn't good for you and it didn't feel good to you. But what it taught you is how to treat your spouse, how to treat your children. So it ended up working out good for you in the end. So sometimes the situations can grow us. I'll leave you with a phrase from The Lion King. The past can hurt, but you got two options. You can either run from it or you can run from it. The choice is up to you.
Hmm. You know, if we can stay in the vein of the Lion King, James, you
Yes,
know,
sir.
it was the great prophets Pumbaa and Timon said it's our problem free philosophy,
Philosophy. Yes,
Hakuna
sir. Yes,
Matata. Now, what does that really say? Well, I think we have to realize as men that although we're going to go through trials and tribulations, we do have to have a problem free philosophy, because if
definitely.
we don't, we will stay trapped where we are. So to say Hakuna Matata puts me, my problem didn't change, my perspective did, you know, and I believe that, you know, the prophets were saying that you're going to have a situation, you're going to have a problem. But even if you look in scripture, before God changes problems, he changes perspectives. You know what I'm saying? You know, like, okay, in this life, we will have trials, we will have tribulations, right? Bible says, how can two walk together unless they agree, right? We make that to only talk about in marriage. What about you and God? Have we ever talked about it like that? I'm one, God is another. I can't walk with God. Let's be in agreement. And sometimes I have to bring myself back to the perspective of knowing he is a very present help in the time of trouble. That's
Come on.
agreement. I can do all things through Christ. That's agreement.
That's
You know what? Greater is he that live within me. That's agreement. So it's like, what do we find agreement with to be able to connect with in our moments of trial, in our moments of tribulation, to help to lift us up to a better perspective, to have the Hakuna Matata moment, problem-free philosophy. Because I could be in a situation, right, but not consumed by it. Like you mentioned, the three Hebrew boys, right? We know the story. We know the story. Three went in. Then the king saw a fourth man in the fire, right? If they didn't put four in there, they only put three. Then who was the fourth man? The king said the fourth one looked like the son of David. So, well, if the king wasn't a believer, then how could he understand what he looked like? He understood because three Hebrew boys had it on them. They had anointing on them. And when you see an anointed person, you see a picture and a portrait of God too. So it's like, if they didn't put four in there, where the fourth one come from? He was already in there. God is already in the dark place. God is already in the fire. When we come out, God doesn't come out with us. Four never came out. Three went in, they saw four, three came out. The fourth one was still in the fire because somebody else gonna be in this fire next. And when they come in, and that's the story that we have to tell. Let me tell you who I met in the fire. Let me tell you what happened to me in this dark place. Let me tell you what God spoke to me. Let me tell you what I learned, how I was enlightened. That's what helps the next person to either understand what it will be like when it's their turn, or it helps somebody to avoid a wrong route in life that puts them in a bad situation or a bad way, depending upon what the situation is. So it's like, what is to be learned from our experiences is not just the testimony, but it's the effect the testimony had on you. And we only share our spiritual perspective, but we never discuss the humanistic point of view. Because the truth of the matter is, as a pastor, I have a responsibility to those who don't believe what I believe too.
Yeah.
And I have to be able to speak to you and to help you understand this very same divine story without being so churchy. Because see, let me tell you, it's my last thing, I promise. We've been in this pandemic, right? The churches has been empty. But let me tell you what's going to happen. It's about to be a whole wave of folk come back to the church that we ain't never seen. And how do we preach to these people who don't have a church background? They come from the streets. They come from life. They didn't grow up in the church. So if you think that take one step here, take two, gonna work for them, lies you tell. You got to be able to think and bring this thing down to a humanistic point of view and to explain this stuff from a practical standpoint to then elevate them up to the spiritual perspective. Yeah. I'm done. I know I'm about to get long. I feel
see, and I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, they got me with a reverend and a preacher. It's making me want to give a word, but you know, I'm just a therapist. But you know, maybe I could teach Sunday school or something like that. I don't have y'all can put me in a Sunday school. But I mean, what you guys said, it actually did connect with what I was thinking. You know, I asked the question, what will we advise guys to do that's dealing with their emotions, have a hard time dealing with their emotions? And you guys talked about Daniel in the lion's den. You talked about Shadrach and Meshach in the fire, Joseph in the prison. And one thing I started to realize about all those stories is that even though they were in a dark place, even though they was in pain, even though they was having hard times, they wasn't by themselves. They was with other men. They were with other group of men. And I think that's so important. If you're dealing with something, if you're struggling with something, is to find your community of men that can support you emotionally, mentally, even physically, medically, if that's the issue. We need to stop trying to do it alone. Stop trying to be an island. We need other brothers to help build us up. We need other brothers to talk to when we're feeling down. We need other brothers that we can turn to, that we can trust, that we can rely on and be vulnerable with. All those brothers that was in those dark places in the Bible, they always were with somebody. Even Daniel, he wasn't by himself. He was with an angel. Angel appeared. Nobody was by themselves.
Come on, sir.
Nobody try to carry it alone. And as men, that's what we try to do way too much.
Mm-hmm.
So my advice would be just find a community of some good brothers that you can be with.
Yeah.
You can open up to, that you can talk to, that you can cry with. And that won't judge you.
That's right.
That would be my advice.
That's right. Find you a community of brothers.
Any closing thoughts, or you guys want to share where people can find you individually? Of course, they can find us here every second and fourth Saturday of the month. As a team, the on the Godly View, the Soul Brothers. They can find us together every second and fourth Saturday at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. But where can the brothers find y'all? Where can the people find y'all individually? Because I know every one of you good brothers got your own platform as well.
I can be found on all major platforms. My name, Gregory Devon. You know, if you ever happen to be in the North Carolina area, feel free to connect with me in person. I throw events around the Triangle and geared toward in and outside of the church, geared towards bringing people together to converse about relationships, marriage, love, dating. I even would do a speed dating every now and again under the right settings. But you can find me again on social media with Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, same name. I look forward to engaging you in thought. You don't have to be a Christian to engage me in conversation. I enjoy hearing. I can agree with you, or I can agree to disagree. Likewise, same you to me. I just believe that it's the exchange of ideas and the exchange of perspectives that makes the world go around. We can all learn something from each other. So again, God bless you all who are watching, and I pray that something that one of the three of us has said, has hit you in your heart and made you think differently and to have a change in your personal life, maybe your relationship, or just give you information to share with somebody else.
You can find me on all social media platforms under James H. Glover III. You can find me on Facebook on different shows that I do via Facebook Live and on YouTube. So it's always a pleasure to be back with the brothers and have a fire discussion. But even though y'all see us on the second and fourth Saturdays, we do have a fire producer that is behind the scenes that does a lot for us, that make sure that things go smoothly for us. So we want to give a shout out to our producer, Coach Janine Lamb. We want to give her a shout out.
Me, SheTheBomb.com.
All right.
She definitely is.
All right.
So,
And I guess I'm the host for the night. AB Bracewell. You can find me on Instagram, Ready for Relationship Consulting, or my other Instagram page, which is the Sexual Miseducation of Black Men. You can follow me on Facebook under AB Bracewell, or you can follow me on my website, or you can connect with me on my website, which is readyforrelationship.com. Brothers, once again, we had a great conversation, great discussion. I can't wait till second and fourth Saturday rolls around so I can sit down with you brothers. So once again, we thanks for showing love. Everybody that was in a comment, that was logged on. Appreciate you. And I guess we're signing out.
all right.
So